Okay, hey Chucklefucks, it's your boy, Dark Raikou, again, with a new video, or a new what if, okay? Now, yesterday, I tried to stream yesterday. Yeah, that didn't work. I realized that I gotta get 1K subscribers. Damn, I have to start from the fucking bottom just to go back up in that shit. But yeah, in my first channel I have 3K, so I can easily stream, but yeah. So I just stream on my first channel. But of course, not the point. Whatever. Let me go back. It's the what if, but yeah. But pretty much this what if is called What If Issei was a reincarnation of Madara Uchiha, the ghost of the Uchihas. Not really, but it's not in the title. But and also I should mention it, and had the Black Dragon of Annihilation. Now, before I continue on, what the fuck is a Black Dragon of Annihilation? Truly, I got expired from actually watching this one what if that had it was 6 hours long. I didn't watch it all, but it was what if Issei was portrayed. I think so. I don't remember, but pretty much, I'm also thinking of doing an Issei portray what if. I don't know. Pretty much, what I was thinking of doing, I was actually gonna put this on a community post of 3 different situations of betrayment, or mostly what happens after the betrayment. But I'm thinking of either doing it in a community post or just say screw it and pick one of them. Meeny, miny, mo, fuck it. Pick one of those damn situations because I have 3 of them. Or I can just do one and then do another one later on, blah, 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 whatever. But not the point. But yeah, Issei does have the Black Dragon of Annihilation. Wait. Bleh. Oh, whatever. I ate food and almost my food went back up. Bleh. Bleh. That really sucks. Sorry about that. But, not the point. Let me begin into this what if. Let me shut the fuck up. And also I should mention one thing. I'm almost at 100. Yay! I'm almost at 100 subs. Damn. That didn't take that long. Really? I don't remember how long it took for my first channel to get 100 subscribers. I think it only took a month. I don't know. But yeah. Besides, I think my first what if on my first channel was really cringy because I was too stuttery and other things. But yeah. That also did happen for the second channel. But when I was starting these Issei what ifs, I kind of did stutter in the first channel. If you manage to catch it. But yeah. I don't think you can catch it because I managed to stop myself from stuttering like fucking hell. Not the point. I'm taking way too many minutes of your time. Let me begin. Let me shut the fuck up. But yeah. We go into a dark place. It seems to be looking like the void. This is where, well, someone with blackish hair and, well, closed eyes is just walking. Keeps walking. And then just open his eyes, realizing, where the fuck is he? He's not in, well, what's it called? The Shinigami's stomach. He's not, in hell. He's not in heaven. But he's in the void. Of course, this is where, well, he is kind of confused on where exactly he's at. This man is looking around, saying, where am I? Damn it. This is where, he says, all I can remember was the last war, the 4th Great Shinobi War, where Obito managed to bring, what's it called? All 9 Bijus, just for me to bring out the 10 tails. Almost made the Tsukiyomi world. If it wasn't for that damn Uchiha and Uzumaki. Damn it. My plans fell, but yet again, they did succeed. But I was betrayed by that damn plant. Damn it, how was I so much of an idiot and I let some stupid black fucking goo fucking trick me. I'm so idiot. I'm such an idiot. Damn it, I died without being in the Tsukiyomi dreaming about my younger brother. Damn it, I wish I was still with you, little brother. Azuna Uchiha. This is where, well, something happens. This is where, well, a ghost-looking figure with purple skin appears. This is where the creature says, Madara Uchiha. This is where, well, Madara says, shit. So you must be the Shinigami. Yes, I am. and I came here to devour your soul. After I got rid of the mostly like 10,000s of souls you managed to send to me during that fucking war. But other than that, it's been a couple of years. It's been almost a millennia you've been here. But now you've been here all alone. It's time to devour that soul. Before the Shinigami was about to grab Madara, his hand gets chopped off in an instant. This is where the Shinigami screams. This is where he's right now in pain. He says, "Son of a bitch, who did that?" He looks towards the side and sees, well, someone with kind of a black science coat. So think of it like a science coat, but it's black and it does have a hood. Of course, this is where the person has black pants. It looks like black jeans, but it looks like also just black, what's it called, sweatpants. This is where, well, he also has black shoes, black socks, and of course a black shirt. Well, kind of. It's kind of has like these lightning kind of patterns on the black shirt, but it's kind of like a turquoise kind of lightning on it. Of course, he also with the black coat is over it, but yeah. This is where, well, the hood kind of basically you can barely see his face entirely because he has what's it called? Well, you can barely see his hair because he has kind of short hair. Well, kind of short, long, medium, mostly medium hairstyle. He has it kind of black. Well, it looks fully black, but with these highlights of turquoise, like green, or not green, mostly blue, turquoise blue. Of course, this is where, well, one eye in particular is mostly glowing with this kind of turquoise aura, but crackling with a lightning of turquoise color. This is where, well, his eye just seems to be right in the middle of, well, his eye socket, but of course, around it, instead of being white like any normal, like skin over the eye and all the other things, it's black. It's completely black, but it has this like dark mist flowing from it. Like if it's the void of darkness. This is where, well, he then looks to try to see this person's face, but realizes he can't see the person's face because there's a mask. A face mask covering up his mouth and also his nose. Can barely see it. This is where he looks to the, well, he looks to the right eye. Now, the right eye seems to, well, be closed. Well, not entirely. It seems there's an eye patch right now covering it. A black eye patch. But this black eye patch seems to have like three key, well, kind of these three kind of colors that can barely be seen, but of course, mostly the hood is kind of like blowing to the side, or mostly to the, well, like left side, and of course, even though there's no wind in this place, but of course, you see these three colors, one underneath the, what's it called, one underneath the, like, ear, one almost over the ear, mostly on top of the ear, and the last one being on top. Now, one is like, what's it called, red. The other one is like this pure white and black. And the last one is, well, this kind of yellow. Now, of course, this is where, well, the Shinigami know his eyes, because those things kind of feels like hell, heaven, and even the void. Mostly his master, death. Like the actual death, not the Shinigami. This is where, well, he looks and narrows his eyes at this person. This is where, well, this person seems to be kind of grinning, but you really can't see his grin. You can only see one eye, and that's his left eye. But one thing is for sure, his hair, mostly some of his hair that kind of like goes towards the right eye, is actually not black, but just white. This is where, well, this person in his left hand has a sword. Oh, well, yeah, in his left hand has a sword. This sword is crackling with turquoise blue, but also oozing this darkness black. Of course, the person just still has a sword, and it has a little bit of this kind of like purplish kind of blood, a little bit. Or well, not purplish blood, kind of crimson. Now, of course, it's basically from the Shinigami getting his arm cut off. This is where, well, Madara is confused, looking at this person. This is where, well, the person says, "Hello there, Shinigami-sama. I'm sorry, but I need to take the soul. I have planned an experiment. You already know this, since we have met in different universes. What are you talking about? This is where the Shinigami now realize, who am I exactly? Or who is this person? And this is where he says, You're Dark Raikou, the son of that damn God Slayer. I guess you're right. Now, let go of the soul. And also, I'm gonna be doing things with other souls. So I'm gonna need you to let go of 2 souls. Or, I know you don't have them. Well, mostly one of them you do, but the other one you don't. Or both of them you don't exactly. I go look for them later. Now go away before I slaughter you, Shinigami-sama. This is where Shinigami glares and narrows his eyes at this person. This is where he says, I'm not giving up. He was rushing towards this person with multiple hands, until all his hands just get easily cut into a million pieces. This is where, well, this person only swing once, in the speed of how precision he cuts all the hands. This is where, well, this person says, now, leave or die. This is where, well, Shinigami says, damn it. Fine, I'll leave. This is where the Shinigami disappears. After a while, this is where, well, the person stops narrowing his eyes and just looks at the void without a care in the world. This is where, well, he then turns towards Madara Uchiha. Madara says, who are you? I am, well, you can call me Dark Raikou if you like to. This is where, well, this person, Madara, said, well, Dark Raikou, why did you come here to save me? Do you not know of my crimes, the evilness I have done? Oh, that's just because you were manipulated. Everyone should get a second chance. Well, in your case, should be like 4 or 5 chances, but whatever. This is where, well, Madara says, if you know about my chances, then why bother to help me? Oh no, I just had this crazy idea one day and decided to come to help you. I'm not a god, so don't think of me like your savior. Well, I'm not a hero, I'm not a god, so don't think of me as your savior. I'm just here to experiment. Just experiment and see. Or mostly, not experiment, mostly watch because of boredom. This is where Madara narrows his eyes and says, what? Don't worry about it. Pretty much, this is where, well, the person puts his hand over Madara's shoulder and said, pretty much, I'm going to reincarnate you into a boy named Issei Hyodo. Well, in your case, you're going to be in full control. Not really, because you're going to lose some memories, but not the point. I'm also going to reincarnate your little brother, Azuna Uchiha, with you. He's going to be 1 year younger than you. This one Madara widens his eyes and says, why? Does it work? Well, the person named Takaraku says, easy. Because I'm bored. I want to watch. I'm just really bored. I have nothing else to do other than kill rogue gods. But they usually hide pretty good. So yeah. Well, I can kill rogue gods, I can kill gods, I can kill heroes because I hate scumbag heroes. So yeah, you can see my preference on just hunting. I can also just go to sleep because I'm also a very tired person. But not the point. I just want to see how this little experiment plays out. Madara says, what if I don't want to go? This is where, well, you don't want to see your little brother? This is where, well, Madara kind of got pressed on that. This is where he says, don't reincarnate my brother if I don't want to go. Your brother's going to be extremely lonely. You seriously don't want to be with your brother? That's sad. This is where Madara says, what? I do. Fine, I'll take your offer. God or whatever. This is where, well, a sword will actually point at Madara's neck. This is where, well, he looks down and then looks towards the person. The sword person looks back at Madara with these hateful eyes. Don't call me a god. Understand? Just call me, what can you call me beside God? I got it. Call me Potato. I hate the word God. The only word that I like with God is Slayer, because I'm basically a God Slayer. Now, understand this. You are not just going to be reborn, Madara Uchiha. You are going to be also having a boosted sacred gear with a dragon. You see here, I might just be a God Slayer. Well, I'm only half. My other side of power is, well, what this eye contains. Pretty much, I'm going to reborn you with a power that I'm going to ask from someone, or just force him to do it. But not the point. You will now know soon, later, probably earlier throughout your life. But you are going to be reborn one way or another. I'm gonna bring Azuna with you. And your other two brothers, well, I don't know much information about them. I might reborn them also with you. This is where, Madara says, how can I trust you if you're gonna really reborn Azuna? You can trust me, Madara. Why would I ever lie to you? But, can you really trust me? No. Your memories are going to be lost a little bit. They're going to be in your corner of your mind. Ever you're in danger or anything, or either you're walking your Sharingan, your memories will be coming back through your head. And when that happens, you're basically back to your original strength of power. Or not entirely, because however long you awaken them or whatever, you're going to have to just train on your body. That's you. This is where Madara looks at, this God Slayer, or whatever he said. This is where Madara concluded what to do. This is where, he looks at this person and says, fine, Dark Raku-sama, or Potato. I will take your offer. This is where, Dark Raku smiles and just snaps his finger in an instant. This is where a turquoise bluish light appears around Madara before he zaps away and disappears from, the view of, Dark Raku. This is where, Dark Raku smiles, saying, good luck in your new life. It's time for me to go get some other people. This is where, he teleported, towards getting Azuna. Now, when Madara was kind of being born, of course, being, born with his mother, the two Hideyoshis and other that, Madara says, what? Why do I still have my memories? Didn't that person, Potato or whatever, said that I was not gonna reborn my memories? This is where, time suddenly just stops. This is where, something happens. A portal, a rift appears. This is where, the same person that Madara has seen once in the void appears. So, I forgot to erase your memories. Let me put them through your corner or something. Let me just put them somewhere in the corner. But, I also, I'm putting other things inside you. You see here, you're not just going to be reborn by yourself. You remember the 10 tails, right? Madara says, yeah. Well, I'm also going to put in the 10 tails. Now, the 10 tails is going to be able to talk to you when you finally get your memories. Or when you awaken the Sharingan, whatever. But yeah, the 10 tails will be helping you in learning stuff. But not just that. I'm also going to put a miniature library of every single Kekkei Jutsu and other stuff into your mind when you unlock the Sharingan. And from there, you will be onwards to learning everything from your past life, meaning the Shinobi world. Meaning that you will learn all history, all this, that. And you will be able to, learn it with your chakra capacity. Because when I put the 10 tails inside your body, when you're still an infant, you're going to have a bigger chakra pool than your original, self from your past life. Also, you're probably also going to be much more bigger when you become 18 or whatever. Much more bigger than, well, that one blonde kid you fought in the Shinobi War, meaning Naruto and Sasuke Uchiha. But good luck. This is where Madara says, wait, what? This is where, well, his head was kind of like light up with this lightning, well, mostly this darkness color. And this is where, well, mostly this like black color of darkness. This is where, well, Madara then went goo goo gaga. He went just to sleep. But yeah, this is where, well, we go into a time skip where the person did leave and other things. But yeah, we go into a time skip of an 18-year-old boy that hasn't really been in school for about a month because he just didn't give a shit that much. But of course, his parents just kind of annoyed him to go to school. But yeah, this is where, oh, this person has longish, well, kind of like longish black hair. Kind of, mostly kind of reaches down towards his back a little bit. Mostly halfway, but yeah. This is where, well, he has black onyx eyes. This is where, well, he has kind of this sleep deprived look of eyes also. He kind of looks kind of tired most of the time. Now, of course, he is wearing what's it called, a black kind of jacket. Well, not a black jacket, a black hoodie. Kind of the school uniform underneath, but he doesn't give a shit right now. Of course, well, let me go back again. He's wearing a black long sleeve shirt with what's it called, the over it, the kind of uniform for Kyosho Academy. This is where, well, he's wearing what's it called, black pants because he doesn't give a shit. This is where, well, he's wearing black shoes. We go into his room. His room basically has multiple weapons, as you mentioned. He has 2 katanas like over his bed. Mostly one is black, one is white. This is where, well, there's a lot of other pictures, but they're not like what's it called, female pictures where they're like showing off what's it called, whatever. Because this is Issei, well, Hyoto. But of course, he doesn't really like being called Issei. He likes being called Madara, but when he was born, they basically call him Issei Hyoto. Now, of course, well, for some reason, he likes the name better, Madara, because it has this, like, tint of fear in that name. This is where, well, this person, as you mentioned, is kind of a little bit ripped and all that, but kind of. This is where, well, he doesn't slack off training, but yeah. This is where, well, he's also just very tired. He's yawning right now. This is where, well, he hears knocking at his room. And this is where when he opens the door, he sees his cheerful younger brother, Azuna Hyoto. This is where, well, Azuna Hyoto is, what's it called, another child, a younger child from the Hyoto family. He is 17 and of course, also similar, has longish hair, but mostly it's kind of shorter than Madara's. Now, of course, where, well, he has his hair in a ponytail. And he looks kind of adorable for being only a 17-year-old. He's kind of has that kind of Zuna look from his past life. And Madara, who is Issei, still kind of has that whole Madara look a little bit. But yeah, just a little bit shorter black hair from instead of from his past life. But yeah, this is where, well, Azuna, he's smiling at his brother and saying, "Come on, what's it called? It's Issei or Madara. We're going to be late from school. Come on, you can't just be not going to school for a month." This is where, well, Issei says, "Meh, I don't wanna." This is where, well, Zuna says, "Come on." This is where he grabs Madara and says, "Let's go." This is where, well, they start kind of going out of Madara's room. And this is where, well, Azuna is a little bit shorter than what's called Madara, but of course, this is where Azuna is smiling at Madara. Now, of course, Madara is the height of, well, I don't remember how tall, well, Issei was. Well, wait. So, Madara is 5'9". Well, Issei in original canon was like 5'7", but that's just because he was 17. Madara right now is, well, Issei is the age of 18, and he is 5'9". Now, of course, Azuna is 5'7", and he's 17. He's the younger brother of, well, Issei. But yeah. Now, we go into, well, them going downstairs, and of course, where, well, both Hyoto parents, mostly, well, what's it called, mother and father, are kind of saying, So, what's it called? Issei, you're gonna go to school back again since you skipped about 1 month. Dang it, Issei. When are you gonna get your life together? Sir Issei says, don't worry. I'll get my life together. Probably. This is where, well, they kind of complain towards Issei about how his brother is so talented that his brother just loves going outside, meeting new people, being friends with people. He's a very, what's it called? What was that word? External. Is it external or well, whatever. What's it called? Pretty much, he's a really outgoing kid. While Madara is the opposite. He doesn't like talking to people. He hates people, actually. He basically never talks to anyone unless it's something important in like class or whatever. Well, that's even a rare occasion because he'd rather do the work by himself. He's solo. He'd rather do that shit solo. And of course, he just hates people in general. He would glare at them. He doesn't care that much. The only person that he ever talks outside, well, inside or outside of school, is Zuna. That's the only person. He would just make sure that his little brother is protected. He will make sure no bully dare tries to hurt his little brother, because if they do, their jawlines are going to be shattered. Yeah, Madara is going to be breaking jawlines and breaking those goddamn kneecaps. Man's overprotective for his little brother, man. But yeah. Now, of course, well, we go into, well, Azuna and, well, Madara getting to school. Now, of course, well, Azuna says, come on, come on, come on, older brother. Come on, stop being too lazy to go to school. Madara says, I'm walking as fast as I can. This is where, well, Madara's going like fucking turtle speed. He is just doing this on purpose because he'd rather be late to school. He hates his school entirely. Pretty much the reason why he hates his school is because all the fucking perverts and all the girls who are fucking down bad. Like, goddamn. This school is like a match made in fucking hell. That's what he's thinking, but yeah. Now, of course, this is where this Issei isn't pervert at all. He instead is having Madara's personality. Just not Madara's memories just yet. This is where, well, we go into, well, Madara and Asuna manage to walk inside to school. Mostly the fence. This is where so many girls are having hearts in their eyes towards Azuna. And when they have a little bit of hearts towards Madara, Madara just glares and glances at them. This is where they get scared and, of course, just stop looking at Azuna or Madara. This is where, well, Azuna has this very cheerful, loving, like, go-lucky kid and all that smile. This is where, well, Madara has this death glare of any fucker trying to mess around with his little brother. Is going to get their, like, kneecap shatter. This is where, well, some guys, like, were talking mad shit about Azuna. And this is where Madara right now, like, cracks his neck to look at these people. And this is where they kind of pale. When they kind of felt this, like, murderous intent. Like, you want to keep talking shit? Well, you're going to go into... Yeah, let me say it again. You're going to meet fucking hell, or mostly death itself. We are talking around that shit about Azuna, but yeah. This is where, well, 3 people block Azuna's way from actually going inside. And Azuna says, excuse me, can I pass through? This is where the 3 people say, no, you can't. You know why? Because we don't like any pretty boys like you. You've been hugging all the people. This is where, well, before they keep talking, the leader gets his head grabbed by Madara and then smashed to the ground in an instant. Well, any second thought, this man's head has now been just shattered. Not literally, but a figure of speech. But yeah, well, I mean, there's some blood kind of trickling off his head. But this is where the ground was cracked. This is where the other 2 were right now startled and scared. This is where Madara cracks his, like, fingers, like popping them off. And this is where, well, Madara says, sorry, I didn't hear what you were talking about. Can you speak a little bit louder? If you don't want to speak, I can help you speak louder. This is where they were screaming like girls and running away from Madara. Madara says, pathetic pussies. This is where, well, Azuna says, Madara, why? Well, not Madara, he says, Issei, well, he does say Madara because Madara has kind of put that in his head to call him Madara and not Issei. But of course, Issei's parents still will call Issei Issei, not Madara, because they don't know where he got that idea. This is where, well, Izuna says, Madara, why do you keep doing this? I didn't hear what they said. This is where, well, Madara says, you didn't need to hear what they said. Pathetic trash like him doesn't need to say anything to you. Now, just get back to class, okay? This is where, well, Izuna pouts, but he nodded and said, okay, see you, older brother, I'll see you later. This is where, well, Issei says, yeah, I'll see you later. This is where, well, Issei is walking away from, well, that whole incident. But before walking away, he kind of comes back, stomps his feet into this man's chest, cracking some ribs and then walking away. Like, he disrespects this man much more because he didn't give a fuck about this man's life. Literally, he didn't give 2 fucks less. But yeah. But we go into a time skip of Madara kind of just putting his hand, well, mostly his fist on the table, or not even his fist, mostly his like elbow, and having his fist kind of put up to his face. Now, of course, he's looking at, well, the board, not really paying attention. He didn't give a shit. He was falling asleep. He actually slept with his eyes open, but yeah. But of course, well, with that happening, everyone was kind of, mostly the girls and guys were kind of whispering to each other, mostly the girls to the girls' side and the guys to the guys. Because when they glance towards Madara, the girls are kind of freaking out. Because they think he's hot, but at the same time scary. Now the guy says, he's mostly fucking scary. Oh, hell nah. Like, half of them already know that if they were supposed to pick a fucking death list of all the, like, pretty boys in this school, top person would be, what's it called, Kiba Yuta or whatever his name was, and then Azuna Hiro, and then it would be Madara, but Madara would have done a reverse Uno, and fucking, well, not reverse Uno, reverse Uno card on their ass, and made them all the death list that he has for all these people. Because fuck them. This is where, well, all of them are just scared. The teacher is kind of also scared of Madara, but yeah. This is where, well, 2 perverts decide to go up to Madara and, of course, try to, like, talk to him. Of course, Madara ignores their ass in an instant because he already knows who the fuck these 2 are. One is having no hair and he's kind of bald, and the other guy has black hair and has glasses. I don't remember their names entirely, but I think the bald guy was named Matsu, while the other guy was named Hamamoto or something like that. I don't remember. I think it was Motahama or something like that. But yeah. No, this is where, well, they're trying to kind of like get Madara, or mostly Issei, to kind of help them out with a little bit of perving. And this is where, well, Issei looks towards him with a just uncaring look. And this is where the 2 of them are just kind of keep talking into him, trying to make him like his bodyguard for both of them. But this is where, well, Issei stands up, and this is where both of their eyes widen, thinking that they managed to convince Issei. But Issei grabs both of their heads and smashes them together, and then pushing them away. But yeah, knocking them out, giving them a fucking coma, like giving them a concussion out here, putting their ass in a coma. But yeah, I can't believe I said coma in the beginning. But yeah, he really send those 2 dumbasses straight to the Shadow Realm. But yeah, this is where, well, Madara didn't care and decided to go meet up where what's called Azuna would have been kind of at. This is where, well, we go into Azuna. Azuna is right now talking to someone. Mostly a guy with blondish hair and, of course, kind of grayish eyes. Now, of course, where this person says, hey, Azuna, what are you doing? Azuna says, oh, I'm just waiting for my older brother to kind of get over here. What are you doing here, Kiba-san? This is where Kiba says, oh, well, I'm just kind of wondering, would you like to hang out later? This is where, well, Azuna says, sure, man, I like that. This is where, well, Kiba smiles at Azuna. Now, of course, both Kiba and Azuna knows each other from the fact that they have their own kind of fangirls always chasing after them. But yeah. Now, of course, this is where Kiba says, "Wait, you said your older brother, right? He hasn't been here for a whole month, has he?" "Nope." "Why?" "He didn't feel like it. That was the only reason that he ever told what's it called, both of our parents and also, well, me. He didn't feel like it." This is where Kiba says, "Damn." But this is where, well, Suna says, "So yeah, I don't actually know what he meant. I think he just didn't care about school." Kiba says, "But shouldn't he have his own kind of fan club? Yeah, if they like scary people." This is where, well, Kiba says, "Right. Because he has seen Madara once with Azuna, and of course, Kiba hasn't really approached Azuna that much when Madara is along with him, because holy shit, he gives out this scary ass feeling like this man's going to kill him. With all his double blood and other things, he probably would have died just in hand-to-hand combat with Madara. But yeah, he feels like fighting against Madara is like, did you really want to fight against the man that fought against the Shinobi Alliance and whooped the shit out of them? Well, he doesn't know what exactly Shinobi Alliance is, but you get the point, right? This is where, well, we go into, well, a couple of minutes later. This is where Madara shows up and says, "Azuna." This is where he glares or glances at what's it called, Kiba. This is where Azuna says, "Big brother, so how was your day? How was your day from coming back after a month and other things?" "Boring." This is where Azuna says, "Oh, that's interesting. Nothing exciting?" This is where, well, Madara says, nope. This is where, well, Madara isn't gonna tell Azuna, "Oh yeah, I just gave 2 people a concussion and said fuck them." This is where, well, Madara isn't going to just tell Azuna because he knows Azuna's gonna freak out and kind of try to go apologize to people about why Madara gave them a concussion and blah blah blah. But this is where, well, Madara says, "Nope, not at all. It's pretty boring out here." This is where, well, he kind of glances again to Kiba and doesn't really care. He doesn't say anything to Kiba. This is where, well, Madara says, "Well, I should be going home, Azuna. Whatever you're gonna do, you can go do it." But yeah, this is where Madara, he glances up towards an abandoned kind of like house, or mostly the research club, and kind of glance, mostly his onyx eyes manage to connect towards a bluish greenish eyes, mostly from a red-haired girl. This is where, well, Madara says, "Who the fuck was she?" This is where, well, Kiba looks up and sees no one and says, are you okay?" This is where Madara says, "Never mind. I must have been looking at something. Must have been a bird." This is where, well, Kiba says, "Yeah." This is where, well, he thinks that must have been Rias. Oh, I wonder why she glanced at us. She really doesn't care mostly about any of the guys. Interesting. This is where, well, Rias was kind of playing chess. She was playing chess with, what's it called? Well, Akana. And of course, where, well, Rias says, "Who was that guy down there?" This is where, well, Akana says, "Which one?" This is where, well, Rias says, "You know, the 2 guys from, well, except Kiba." This is where, well, Akana says, "Oh, one of them should be Azuna Hyoto. He's, well, 17, and he's a younger classmate from both of us. He's a sophomore." This is where, well, Maria said, "Okay, what about the other one?" The other one is a little bit special. He hasn't really been here for, well, a month entirely. The first semester, well, mostly the first day he came, he didn't came the next couple of days, mostly a month. So he's back, and he's probably going to dip again." That's where Maria says, "Huh?" And the what's it called? The councils didn't do anything. Mostly asked him to come back, but yeah, pretty much he isn't that pretty good in a bunch of things. Actually, his grades might suck, but yeah, he should be in the same class. What's it called? Classroom year as you, Rias. Rias says, "Wait, what? What is his name?" "Issei Hyoto." you might have never heard of him because he's very, very, very silent. You can barely, like, there's barely any rumors. The only rumors that there is for, Issei is the fact that he isn't someone to be taken lightly in a fight. He will knock your teeth out. That's what mostly a bunch of guys said. And of course, there's also rumors that he's a very scary individual from his younger brother. And very overprotective from his younger brother. He kind of loves his younger brother way too much. Meaning that he will protect him at all costs. Yeah. This is where Ryo says, I see. This is where, well, Akano says, checkmate. This is where, well, Ryo says, huh? How? Damn it. This is where, well, Akano says, well, what do you want me to do with both of them? This is where, well, Ryo says, keep an eye on, well, not Issei, Azuna. This is where, well, Akano says, why? I have a strange feeling about him. This is where, well, she then says, well, also keep an eye on, well, Issei. I also have a strange feeling about him also. This is where, well, Akano says, Ara, did he finally fall in love with someone? This is where, well, Ryo's face becomes annoyed of red and says, no, I haven't. This is where, well, Akano says, sure. I'll keep an eye on, well, Issei and Azuna. This is where, well, we come to Azuna, about to get home, but of course, when he was crossing a bridge, a girl asked him out, and this is where Azuna didn't want to reject the proposition or anything. He's not a pervert or anything, so of course, he said yes, because she seemed kind of nice, and she was from a different school, so of course, he didn't have that whole fangirl thing or whatever, chase or anything. Because he hasn't really accepted any of the girl's proposition, anything. So, of course, Azuna say, sure. This is where, well, the girl was happy. And, of course, this is where Azuna was walking away. Of course, this is where, well, Azuna was just smiling and happy and other things. This is where a white-haired girl says, so, his name is Azuna. Lick. She was eating ice cream. And, of course, he said, he's kind of dense. This is where, well, we go into, well, Madara, or, well, Issei. Issei was right now just training, mostly in the backyard, punching the tree. And of course, where, well, he was just kind of doing, like, punches and other things, but yeah. This is where, well, he kind of, like, what's it called, brushed some sweat off his, eyebrow and other things, because he was just sweating, but yeah. Of course, where, well, he has no shirt and he looks ripped as fuck, but yeah. This is where, well, Madara says, well, time to go inside and get a shower, but yeah. This is where he goes to take a shower. This is where, well, we go into the next day, and of course, this is where, well, Azuna kind of tells Madara about how he has a girlfriend, and does show her off, and this is where, well, Madara, he kind of glances at this girl. Her name is I don't remember, Ryui, whatever, her, Yumi? I think her name was Yumi. This is where, well, she kind of smiles towards the car, well, not Matsu, mostly, Madara, or mostly Issei, and say, hello there. This is where, well, Issei, he kind of does shake her hand, until, well, Yumi kind of feels like this bone-crushing, like, handshake. This is where Madara says, if you hurt my little brother's feelings, or try to do anything else, I will rip you apart. Now, of course, he said that whisperly into her ear. This is where she gets kind of afraid from how Madara is so damn cold. Like, this man's overprotective for Azuna emotionally and also physically. Like, this man, he's going to protect Azuna anytime he needs to. But yeah. And Madara didn't notice that fake-ass smile. Madara could have easily knocked her fucking lights out. Literally. But yeah. But he didn't want to scare Azuna anything, so of course he let this kind of go on. Because he knows Azuna isn't a slacker in training, but yeah. But of course we go into a time skip. This is where, well, the next day kind of, well, not next day, mostly, yeah, the next day happens. Of course Azuna is on that whole date. This is where Madara, he has this worried feeling because it's been the afternoon. And he hasn't seen his little brother yet. He has a really bad feeling about that girl. This is where, well, he goes inside and decides to kind of, well, not shower up. Instead, just kind of like get a black hoodie and, of course, get those two katanas from his kind of like wall. This is where, well, he always had this like weird feeling that anything that happened to Asuna, he always knows immediately. Like he has this sixth sense of knowing when Asuna is hurt. This is where, well, we go into Asuna. Asuna has this kind of light spear into his chest. He's like, he's coughing, saying, Yumi. This is where, well, he's kind of saddened. Of course, this is where his eyes seem tired. This is where Yumi says, sorry, but can you die for me? She throws a light spear at what's it called? Asuna. Asuna was about to get hit until the light spear was fucking just cut into two. And this is where, well, Yumi widened her eyes and saw, well, none other than Azuna's older brother, Madara Uchiha. No, I'm just kidding. But mostly Issei Hyoto. Now, of course, the where she says, damn it. Damn it, I could have killed him. This is where, well, Madara says, Azuna, are you okay? This is where, well, he looks at Azuna down and saw his wound, and this is where his eyes just show nothing but rage. He was pissed the fuck off. This is where Madara rushes towards Yumi, and Yumi says, I'm not dying. Die! She sends another light spear at Madara, and Madara just cut that shit before even realizing it. He gets hit by another light spear, but this time not from Yumi, but mostly from a person with kind of a brownish coat, or grayish coat. This is where he has a hat, and his name is Dawn Seeker or something like that. And this is where, well, or Donut Seeker, I don't remember his name. Seeker Donut, I don't remember. But this is where, oh, he said, seems like you having a problem, Yumi. This is where Madara gets up and says, I'm not letting you touch my brother. This is where Madara sent this amount of bloodlust towards it called Dawn Seeker and also, well, Yumi. And this is where, well, they both froze. But this is where Madara, he cracks the ground and appears right in front of Dawn Seeker. Right now, sending both of his katanas down. This is where one of his katanas just managed to cut, what's it called? Give a huge cut into Dawn Seeker's like chest. But the other slice kind of cut off Dawn Seeker's arm. We'll see his like left arm. This is where, well, Dawn Seeker won his eyes. But this is where he still managed to stab at, well, Madara in the chest. But this is where Madara coughs in blood. This is where he sent his sword. Well, mostly he was about to send his sword into Dawn Seeker's neck to just cut it off. But then saw Yumi throw another light spear towards Asuna. This is where Madara, he didn't have a choice but had to rush towards Asuna. This is where, well, he appears right in front of Asuna right now, well, mostly having his face towards Asuna. And Asuna says, big brother. This is where Madara gets stabbed in the chest. This is where, well, Madara says, Asuna, I will always protect you. No matter what, you're my little brother. This is where, Asuna says, big brother. This is where Madara falls down. And of course, because he has a light spear like up his chest, but yeah, near almost his heart. And this is where, well, Asuna says, no! This is where, well, his eyes were changing. They were burning in rage. But something happened towards his arm. It started glowing green. And this is where a boosted gear appears. Almost is a boosted gear. Sacred gear boosted. This is where, well, he was enraged and says, I'm going to kill you bastards. Well, before anything else happens, Asuna couldn't really dodge a light spear managing to stab him in the chest from behind. This dark blue hair girl kind of said, at least I managed to kill that brat. What are you two doing? We should probably be leaving. This is where, well, they said fine, Kalan or whatever her goddamn name was. I don't remember. But this is where, well, they started leaving, flying away. And this is where, well, Madara, he managed to look at Azuna. Azuna is right now having this, like, well, closing his eyes and saying, sorry, big brother. I was too weak. Madara's eyes were burning in rage, saying, Azuna, no. Damn it. Isn't this where Madara tries to get up and tries to look through, well, Azuna's pocket and other things, and found, well, this kind of like paper wish. This is where, well, he starts wishing, and of course, this is where, well, he says that he wishes for Azuna to be safe. This is where, well, a red hair girl says, huh? You wish for me. This is where her eyes widen. This is where Madara, he managed to grab her from the kind of skirt, and this is where Madara said, "Please, heal my little brother. Heal him now." This is where Madara, he seems to have like 3 holes in his body. Like, he's more wounded than what's it called Azuna is. But this is where this man is still going on sheer fucking will. This is where, well, Madara tries to stand up, but this is where he was about to fall. And this is where, well, Rias tries to grab him. This is where, well, Madara fell down. This is where Madara, he's falling actually asleep. This is where, well, he's actually kind of tired. This is where, well, we go into a time skip later. But this is where, well, sorry about that. This is where, well, Azuna and Madara woke up. Mostly Madara woke up in his own bed, while Azuna woke up in his own bed. But yeah, this is where Azuna says, that was a weird dream. Felt kind of painful, but I wonder how older brother is doing. This is where we go into Madara. Madara wakes up in an instant. This is where he says, Azuna! This is where, well, he screams out loud, and this is where he realized that he's in bed. That's kind of confusing. But yeah. He's in bed. Well, he does kind of have clothes. And he says, what the fuck just happened? I feel strange. This is where, well, he says, I feel really strange. This is where, well, his eyes activate. They activate into the one to my Sharingan. And this is where, well, memories start flooding his head. This is where he's like, oh, bitch, what is happening? Ah. This is where, well, Azuna rushes towards Madara and says, hey, older brother, are you okay? This is where Madara gets up and deactivates his eyes and says, yeah, I'm fine. Sorry, I fell down in my bed. This is where Azuna says, oh, come on, older brother. That's the worst excuse. Let's just go to school, okay? I know you're going to try to make excuses so you can go, well, so you shouldn't go to school. But come on. Sir Madara kind of chuckles and says, oh, come on, Azuna. Just let me stay home, please. This is where, well, Azuna grabs her from the hand and just kind of starts pulling him, saying, no, you shouldn't. This is where, well, Madara sighs, but yeah. Now, of course, this is where, well, they kind of goes downstairs, and this is where, well, they kind of go to school, but of course Azuna does ask, well, Madara about a girl named Yumi. This is where Madara thinks in his head, saying, doesn't ring a bell, even though Madara knows who the fuck she is. She's that fucking bitch. In his dream, or in reality, because he realizes it's a fucking real thing, fucking stab him and his little brother, and those other 2 bastards did the same. Swear, well, Madara says, I'm going to kill those goddamn bastards. And that damn slut's going to die by my hands. Now, of course, well, Madara does have, what's it called? Well, he doesn't have a katana right now. But of course, well, he has both katanas because, yes, he is making sure. Well, not a katana. Mostly he has a kunai pouch just in case he needs to find that bitch and kill that motherfucker. But yeah. This is where, well, he kind of gets to school, and of course he does tell what's it called, Azuna to go. This is where the same bullies, mostly from yesterday, they're trying to fight against Azuna, but in a different spot. But this is where Madara appears, clocking them all out, and then just like walking back towards his like class. But yeah, this is where, well, we go into, well, what's it called? Madara. Madara is right now asleep in his, what's it called, like classroom. And of course, well, he thinks in his head, red hair. Red hair. Who has red hair? This is where, well, he's in his classroom. And of course, he opened his eyes because he was asleep because he didn't give a shit. And of course, this is where he noticed a girl with red hair. This is where, well, this class is basically kind of the seniors' classroom. And of course, this is where, well, he kind of thinks in his head. That must be, what's her name? This is where, well, Issei pulls out what's it called, a list of all names in his computer, because they're right now in kind of computer class. And this is where he's pretty damn smart to just pull up a bunch of people's names. Red hair girl name, Reincarnation. That's her name. Maybe we should ask her what the fuck happened yesterday. Yeah, that's the case. That's where, well, When class gets out, this is where Madara follows where the fuck she's going, and she just goes to the old research club. This is where, research club. That's where Issei gets towards the research club and just kind of just knock out what's it called Rhea Skrummary's door. This is where Rhea says, "Come in." This is where, Issei said, "Hey, Grimmary or Rias or whatever should I call you? Can I ask you some questions?" Now, of course, Madara did have his eyes closed, and when he opens them, he sees Rias right now taking off her clothes. Madara right now just closes the door and says, "Never mind, I see you're busy." This is where Rias says, wait. This is where, Madara says, "Nah, I'm fucking good. Fuck this shit." Madara's like, "Nah, fuck this shit." This is where, Rias says, "No, come back. I'm done changing, please." This is where, Madara comes back. Of course, this is where, he opens the door again. And this is where, his eyes kind of changes a little bit to become, not his eyes, most of his face becomes a little bit tint pink. Closes the door and says, "I thought you said you were done changing." This is where Rhea starts giggling and saying, well, I tried to hold it, but I guess it was funny just to see you kind of blush. Since you are what's it called, Issei Hyodo, the most stoic person. This is where, Issei said, "Are you done changing now?" This is where she says, "Yes." This is where Madara says, "Bullshit. Tell me, what are you wearing right now?" This is where, Rhea says, "Oh, so you're into that type of stuff. Sure, I'll tell you." This is where Madara says, "Never mind, don't tell me. I don't want to hear your bullshit story." She is right now fully clothed, and this is where Madara says, "Why the fuck were you taking off your clothes?" This is where, she said, "Because I was taking a shower. Unless you want to." This is where Madara says, "Okay, shut up for a second. I'm here to just kind of ask a couple questions before I go home. So, yeah." This is where, she says, "Okay, what kind of questions?" "So, I want to know what happened yesterday." She says, "I need you to be a little bit more clearer. I did a lot of things yesterday." "Yeah, I can bet you can probably also be fucking, I don't know, suspicious." This is where, Madara says, "Okay, yesterday when you helped me and my brother." This is where Rhea says, "So, you actually remember? Huh, you really do have a strong will. And also, never mind." This is where, she kind of just smiles at Madara and says, "Oh, that. Well, you two was really hurt, so I decided to help you out." This is where Madara says, "Okay, how did you heal me?" But that's actually a bullshit question. How did you manage to fucking do all that towards me and my little brother? What did you even do?" This is where, she says, "I heal you." "Okay, is there anything special about us? Because I feel like there might be something wrong here." She says, "Nope, there's nothing special." Madara says, "Are you sure?" "Yeah." "Do you want to play some chess?" This is where, Madara says, "If I play chess with you, will you tell me the full story?" "Maybe if you win." Madara says, "Okay, let's play some shogi then." This is where she says, I have never played shogi." "Well, damn, we're on the same fucking base, because I never played chess before. The only person that I have ever played chess was my little brother, and that's just because I sucked at it. But if you don't have shogi, then I'm not playing chess because, fuck, I don't know how to play chess." This is where Rhea sweat draws, but yeah. This is where, they seem to be playing two different types of puzzle games like that. Yes, because Madara does play shogi, or mostly Issei does play shogi, while Rhea actually plays chess. This is where, they're sweat dropping, but yeah. This is where, Rhea says, I can teach you if you wanna." This is where Issei says, no, I sucked last time playing against, Azuna, so I shouldn't know. Rhea says, "Come on. Maybe if you definitely win against me, I'll tell you everything. Don't you want to learn everything?" This is where, Issei said, he thinks in his head saying, "I do want to learn what the fuck happened yesterday, but at the same time, I'm not gonna play chess for this shit. So, I don't know." This is where, she says, "Come on. It's not that bad, is it?" This is where, Madara says, "Fine, let's play then." This is where they start playing, and of course, Madara lost. like 3 times. This is where he say, "Fuck this game, I'm done." This is where, well, Rias giggles because she's laughing how bad Madara was at. But this is where, well, Madara said, "Besides, I really suck because, well, how the fuck can you not just get a pawn to kill the king? It's not that hard." This is where, well, she says, "You know, it really is hard for a pawn to kill a king. How? You just gotta run up to the army and just easily knock them all out. It's not that hard." This is where, well, Yuria says, "You sound like you've done it before. And then what, have you done an experience?" This is where, well, Madara says, "Yeah, when I protected Zuna one time, I had to run up to about like 25 gangster mobs or whatever the fuck they were in middle school. I think I was 8th grade while Zuna was in 7th. And of course I managed to get to the leader and then break his fucking body into a million pieces." But yeah, it was kind of fragile. This is where, well, Madara is kind of telling Rias about a story. Now, of course, Rias was kind of wide in her eyes when Madara could easily done that when he was a fucking, like, the age of 15, and Izuna was 14 at that time. But yeah, that's where he's now 18, and of course, seems to be still more aggressive than normal. That's where she says, "Well, that was an interesting story. Have you ever thought of, like, not hurting many people?" No. This is where, well, Madara then looks at his phone and realizes that it's pretty damn late and he should have been with Azuna. This is where Madara says, "Never mind, I gotta be going. Gotta go see my little brother." This is where, well, Madara says, "Hey, Grimmery." This is where, well, Ria says, "Huh? What?" This is where, well, Madara says, "I don't really tell many people this, but I kinda did have fun with you playing at chess. If you learn how to play shogi, then we should definitely play that. But other than that, I'll be going." This is where, well, Ria's face is a little bit tinted of like this pinkish color, but yeah. This is where, well, someone in the shadow says, "Ara ara. So it seems you two are having fun." This is where, well, Ria's kind of glares at, well, Akana and says, "Shut up." This is where, well, we go into Azuna and Madara kind of walking near the, what's it called, that place where, well, original canon, what's it called, Issei would have gone to just to see if Yumi was still there or whatever, or get any conclusions. And this is where, well, what they kind of felt was, what's it called, like, this person walking out. And that's none other than, well, Dawn Seeker, or Dona Seeker, I don't remember. But of course, he tries to attack what's called Azuna and Madara, but Madara managed to just block it with his body. This is where he felt his body really hurting. This is where he says, "What is this shit?" This is where Dawnseeker says, "Since you two are devils, it seems the light is hurting you much more better than you two are humans. Well, it's time to execute you two." This is where Madara says, "No, you don't." This is where he pulls out a kunai and adds lightning chakra without even realizing this and throws it at Dawnseeker. Now it stabs into Dawnseeker's like right arm. This is where Dawnseeker's unable to use that arm. This is where he says, "Son of a bitch, I'm gonna kill you." This is where he rushes at, what's it called? Well, both Madara and what's it called, Azuna. This is where, well, Madara jumps back. That's where he pulls Azuna. And this is where, well, Dawnseeker managed to kind of like spit out a light like sword out of his mouth straight towards Azuna and stab him. This is where Azuna starts screaming and kind of yelling and all that. And he was kind of crying a little bit. And this is where, when Madara saw this, his face mostly twisted and turned into this rage look. He looks at Dawnseeker before going through hand size so fast, his eyes transforming into the 3-tomer Sharingan. This is where he says, "Fire style. Fire, almost a majestic flame destroyer." Sending a blast that annihilated Dawnseeker in an instant. Annihilate also that was a fountain and trees. So where, well, Madara was kind of breathing out tiredly and other things. He fell down, and of course Rios managed to kind of catch him and say, "Damn it." We go into the next day, and of course, this is where Madara wakes up and says, "Ah." He kind of got memories and what happened, other things in his mind. But of course, he says, why do I feel tired? Why do I feel cold? He looks down and says, why the fuck am I naked? This is where Madara is confused, and this is where, he looks at his bed and realizes there's the hunch. He then thinks, who the fuck is in my bed? This is where he pokes it with, like, a sword for a second to think it's probably no one. He's probably paranoid. This is where someone just kind of gets out of the bed sheets and says, who the fuck is poking me? This is where, she opened her eyes and said, Madara? Madara says, what the fuck? This is where Madara fell down and, of course, did pull out his sword and say, why the fuck are you in my bed? What did we do? This is where, Madara starts hearing it was a cop. His mother kind of go up and say, Issei, Azuna, it's time for you to wake up. This is where, she goes into Azuna's room and does check that he's still asleep, kind of taking a nap. Easy. This is where he, mostly she managed to wake him up. But this is where, Madara says, shit, no. This is where, he grabs what's it called, blanket sheets, but couldn't actually put them over what's it called, Rias. And this is where, when Issei's mother managed to get inside, saying, Issei, you need to... This is where Madara says, this is not what it looks like. Also, stop calling me Issei's Madara. God damn it. Not the point. No. This is not what it looks like. This is where, she ran off trying to tell Issei's father. And this is where, Issei says, you motherfuckers. This is where, Issei's father says, that's my boy. I should definitely call you Madara then. That's my boy Madara. You're doing good. You're definitely gonna bring us grandkids one day. This is where, Rias kind of giggles. Madara just fucking says, God damn this family. Fuck this family. Now, of course, this is where, Issei's parents just believe that Issei can do a lot of things. Because Issei was pretty good at being in the kendo kind of, like, swordsmanship and other things. But yeah, even though Madara doesn't show off his talent, he is kind of talented. But of course, Azuna's a little bit more talented than him because he does show it off. This is where Issei doesn't, but yeah. So Madara glances at Rias and says, please tell me we didn't do this. This is where, Rias said, no we didn't. This is where she kind of looks down at, Madara's thing. And she says, is it always that big? This is where Madara says, hey, what the fuck are you looking at? This is where Madara grabs the blanket sheets and says, Jesus Christ, this is just because it's morning. Nothing else. No, don't think it's just because you're here. No, it's just morning. This is where, Madara says, besides, you're fucking perverted for even looking at it. Also, why don't you have clothes? This is where, Rhea said, you ask a lot of questions for someone who's stoic and doesn't care that much about people. This is where Madara glares at her. And this is where she says, okay, I healed you. Isn't healing supposed to just, like, touch in that tall? Not fully, no clothes? This is where, she says, well, yes, but there was another faster way for you to heal, so yeah. You weren't that hurt, but still, it's better to say sorry than never. This is where, Madara says, yeah, okay, never mind. This is where, she kind of just smiles at her, and this is where, mostly smile at him. This is where, Madara says, whatever. Going downstairs. This is where Madara pulls up his pants and other things. This is where she starts going downstairs, but yeah. But for right now, I'm going to end it off here for, part 1, because I'm feeling tired. But other than that, bye. Bye. I'm tired, bye.